Should we go back? Let's see. Can I set the scene a little bit? Okay, it was after World War II. You know, that ended in 45. And then there was many GIs like your father. So he went to work at 46, and it's about the same time I did. Now, we knew a lot of the mechanics, and I knew him. And, you know, I'm going to tell you, he had kind of a little accent all the time. Not only when he was drinking, it just got worse when he was drinking. It didn't get worse. I mean, it just got more pronounced, you know.
Yeah.
And I probably knew. Well, I got to know Jim because the mechanics, we had a smoke break in the morning. We had a locker room there. And he stood out because he had this little accent. He had a real dry sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And he was very outgoing, you know what I mean? And I got to know him a little bit, but when I really got to know him was when my brother lived in East Elmhurst, which is where LaGuardia was, and that's in the borough of Queens in New York, okay?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I lived, and my brother's he had a big old house, beautiful thing. And a guy named Ernie Thibodeau, I'll never forget him. They rented a room from my brother. A lot of the airline employees, you know, it was the place to work because it was exciting. They were growing, and of course he came into it naturally. And the women that came out there, they hired an awful lot of Midwest people. It was a real social thing. I mean, working for the airlines, you met a lot of people from all over the country. They got rooms together, you know, the girls with the women would rent an apartment. And I think, I'm not really too sure. Now, Jeannie, I think, worked for American Airlines, didn't she?
No, she worked for United.
And then she got to know Beth because I think there was 3 other girls, and they all rented an apartment together. Mm-hmm. And that was in Flushing. So anyway, I got to know Jim when he moved for my brother, and then Jeannie and Beth got to know each other. Yeah, so and they ended up working together. They ended up living together, and there was Julie, and there was a bunch of girls that lived in there. So they got to know each other, and then they knew that I knew Jimmy, and Beth decided. We probably talked at the hangar a few times and stuff. Mm-hmm. So Beth decided that Ginny and Jimmy had to meet each other and go on a date. We had to do that. We were going to go to a movie, and it was this.
What movie?
I want to say it was Casablanca, but I think that was too early for Casablanca in the 40s. It was a big one, and I think it was Casablanca. Okay. And this movie house was a real classic. And you went in and kind of in an Italian decor. It had a big fountain in the lobby and brick and everything. And it had the loggias along the side. So it was quite an event to go to. I said, okay, well, we'll go to the movie. I said, I'll pick up Jim and we'll come out to Flushing where they live and pick them up and take them to the movie. Okay?
Okay.
So the date was set up. That was 8. And the day of the date, it started snowing, and it snowed pretty good. Well, back then, 3 or 4 inches of snow in New York wasn't a real hindrance because all the highways and all the streets were pretty used, pretty much, and subways got around. So I went to pick up Jim. All right, got to my brother's house, picked him up, and I went in there, and I think he might have been getting cold feet. I'm not sure because. He said, "You really think the girls maybe we should call them and cancel it?" And I said, "Yeah, Jim." I said, "Listen." And I remember this conversation. I said, "Them girls are from the Midwest. Where was Jeannie from? Illinois, wasn't it?
Illinois, yeah, Southern Illinois."
Anyway, I went to pick him up, and it was snowing a little bit, but it wasn't really enough to stop maybe hooking and stuff. And like I said, I'm not sure he was getting a little nervous about it. But he kept saying, well, gee, maybe we ought to call them and cancel and do another date. I said, Jim, them girls will be there with their coats on. I said, they're both from the Midwest. And something like this, there's not enough snow to stop them, especially if they got a date, okay? So I got them in the car, and we went out to Flushing, picked up the girls, and we went to this really classic. I think it's still there, and I think it's on the National Register of Historic Places. It's out in Flushing, and in this area, and that's where the girls live out in Flushing. Okay, so we to this movie house, and then there was a chain of ice cream parlors. They call them Jan's, and we went to the ice cream parlor afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your father and your mother got along real well. I could see they were hitting it off. We went to this ice cream parlor after that. It was kind of a classic place too. It looked like the 1900 street lights in it and everything else. And we had a good. I mean, then we ended up. We went to their apartment. We went to where Bess and Jeannie lived, and we socialized there.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I could see they were hitting it off pretty good, and evidently they hit it off real well, because they got married. And the thing about working for the airlines, it was very social because they had all these Midwesterners, and I'd say that was at least 60% of Midwestern.
Right.
And they had apartments and stuff. So, and they had 3 shifts, so it was not unusual to have a party, at 1 o'clock in the morning. We'd go to their house, and it was BOYB,
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they weren't, particularly drunken brawls or anything. It was real social. We talked to people from other states. We got to know each other, and as a matter of fact, all the airlines cohabitated a little,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'd meet at these apartments. And that's where I got introduced to Scotch. Jiminy and I and Bess and Jeannie, we were at this social event at somebody's apartment. I think we might have been on the 4 to 12 shift, so it was about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It was a great social job, and the fact that we worked for an airline, because the airlines were growing, people were traveling, it was kind of romantic, it was kind of exciting. We saw a lot of celebrities, and, I almost would say we were like, when you worked for the airlines, you were like almost the jet setters later on.